What is up, guys? Welcome back to another GeekaWhat video, and today I'm going to be showing you step by step how to put together a $1,200 gaming PC build for 2020. I'm going to run you through all the parts behind me, including this brand new B550 motherboard, before booting it up to see how it looks, but more importantly, how it performs. Let's jump into it. I'm going to kick things off as always by installing our CPU, RAM and our storage into our motherboard. And this here is the Gigabyte B550 AORUS Pro. Look at this. Now that is one good looking motherboard. B450's become super expensive recently, so this stuff is definitely a bit easier to get hold of. I'm going to first up install our CPU into our motherboard. To do this, you want to pull back the retention arm on the socket and line the golden triangle here on the CPU with the one on your motherboard. And then it's a case of dropping gently the CPU into place and returning the arm back down. This is the AMD Ryzen 5 3600X. It boosts up to 4.4 GHz and with 6 cores and 12 threads is going to be great. I'm next going to install our RAM or our memory. This is from XPG by ADATA, and it's their Spectrix D60G. To install your RAM, you want to pull back the clips on the second and fourth DIMM slots on your motherboard, and then line the notch in the gold strip on the bottom of your memory with the one on your motherboard. We're then going to slide the RAM into place, and with even pressure to both sides, it will click in without a problem. Repeat for as many DIMMs as you've got, and we're sorted. While our motherboard is out and still easy to access, I'm going to pop this in, our M.2 storage. This is the XPG SX8200 Pro. Basically, it's a super fast NVMe drive, and I'd recommend picking up a 500 gig model and then supplementing our storage today with a hard drive later on. To install your M.2 SSD, you're going to need a teeny tiny little screwdriver, and you want to take the screwdriver to the screw at the end of the top M.2 slot. You'll actually find this really cool like shield thing. We're then going to remove another screw on the standoff here. That's this one, and it really is small, before finding the notch once again on the gold strip of your M.2 drive, sliding it into the slot, and then use the same screw we just removed to secure it into place, before finally sliding that cover back on and doing the same to its screw at the bottom. Ugh. This box is massive. The next step is to move our motherboard assembly, as we're going to call it, into our case. And to do that, yes, tell you something, me with scissors, absolutely lethal. God. We need to take our case out of its box. The exact case I've selected today is Cooler Master's MB520 ARGB. We're going to spin the case round, and here you'll find lots of stuff, but the main thing you need is this bag of screws. The screws in particular we're going to use are these ones for our motherboard. We're then going to take our motherboard and check that where each of the holes on the motherboard sits, we have a corresponding motherboard standoff. This board already has a built-in I/O shield, which is amazing. It's super helpful, which means we can slide the motherboard straight into the case with our I/O just out the back here. The center standoff is slightly raised, which will hold our motherboard into place just for a moment, which is going to give us adequate time to go ahead and screw it down into place. With the motherboard now installed, we're going to pop in our power supply and run a couple of the cables while it's still super easy to do so. We need to take the following cables and clip them into our power supply. The first is the fattest of the lot, and that's our 20+4 pin motherboard power cable. Next up is this 8-pin CPU power cable. We've also got a dual 6+2 pin PCIe power cable. And then finally, lots of little SATA cables. To complicate things just a little bit, I've also picked up this Cooler Master sleeved power supply extension kit. We're once again going to spin the case round before sliding the power supply in just like so. We're going to take the same screws we use for our motherboard to fasten it down pretty easily into place, before taking a 24-pin motherboard power supply extension and a CPU power cable. We're then going to run these through the case to the corresponding slots on the motherboard, and they plug up super easily just like so. The end of the extension cables then just have a slot for the ones that come from our power supply, and are probably the easiest cables in the world to install. The final cables we're going to pop in are our front panel ones, which make the ports on the top of the case actually do something. First is our USB 3 cable, which comes down the bottom of the motherboard and plugs into this corresponding port. It's a similar story for HD audio, which runs to the bottom left of our motherboard and plugs into the bottom leftmost port. The final ones are for our power and reset buttons and stuff like that. And yes, for this, you may want to pull out the manual. It's quite glossy. It's quite a nice manual. I will pop a diagram on your screen now so you can try and follow along. If you get these wrong, don't worry. You'll just have to kind of readjust them. Nothing's going to set on fire. Nothing's going to explode. The next step today then before our graphics card, which I know is the exciting bit, is to pop in our CPU cooler. This here is the Cooler Master Hyper 212 RGB. Once again, this is a case of, it doesn't hurt to look at the manual, but I'm going to guide you through the process as best I can. First, just unclip the fan from the heatsink. You then need to remove the pre-existing mounting hardware on your motherboard, including this backplate. You aren't going to need it for today's build. What you are going to need though is these two kind of straight brackets alongside these two small screws. They're going to screw either side of the bottom of our CPU cooler and then fasten down into our motherboard later. We're then going to take the included backplate and with the 4 silver screws in these positions, slot it through the rear of the case and through the 4 holes we revealed a moment ago. Take these screws that you get with your CPU cooler, and these can just be screwed down with your thumbs, or this included silver tool. We're next gonna lay our case down flat. To make life a little bit easier for ourselves, we're gonna take the pre-included thermal paste in this little syringe, and basically pop a little bit onto our CPU. That is more than enough. Before taking our cooler and securing it into the 4 screws, we popped in literally just a second ago. Now it is finally time for our graphics card, and this is the Gigabyte RX 5700 XT. For me, this is the perfect kind of 5700 XT design. You get the 3 fans, so you get really, really great cooling, and a bit of RGB up top with a nice backplate, but it's not massive, it doesn't break the bank, and it's a really great value option. Remove the little plastic cover from the bottom of the card and then push back this clip on our top PCIe slot. We're going to shadow the graphics card over the slot so that we know exactly which of our PCIe covers need removing. In this instance, it's the 2nd and 3rd slots. And do keep hold of the screws, because we're going to use these again to secure our GPU into place. Line the golden connector over our PCIe slot and nice and carefully clip it down. You then want to use these screws again and screw it down into place. We're going to grab one 8-pin and one 6-pin GPU power extension cable, clip these on into our graphics card, and do exactly the same thing as before, where we just plug our power supply cables into the female end of these extenders, just like so. All that's left to do then is a little bit of cable management. I'm going to whack the side panels on and then boot this machine up so we can see how it looks, but more importantly, how it performs. Roll the montage. It's the next day and I've got the PC set up here and we're going to test it live to see just how it performs. We're going to turn the PC on, just like so, and then mash the delete key on the keyboard. We are into our motherboard's BIOS. Here you can see we've got our B450 AORUS Pro motherboard, Ryzen 5 3600X with 16 gigs of RAM, but it's only running at 2666 megahertz. We're going to fix that by hitting XMP profile 1, just in the basic motherboard BIOS settings, and now we're running at over 3000 megahertz. We then go to save and exit, or F10. Are you sure? Yes, I am. And with Windows installed, we now want to head to the website for our graphics card and just download the latest GPU drivers. Here we go, Windows 10 64-bit. This was updated, last year. And then we hit download and we're gonna run that straight off the bat to make things super duper easy. We're gonna hit yes, because otherwise nothing's gonna work. And then go ahead and hit install. While this is doing that, we're also gonna grab the Gigabyte RGB Fusion 2.0 software so we can control all the RGB LEDs in our system. The download button is RGB. Now, once we're in the RGB Fusion software, we can do all sorts of stuff, have like system-wide effects. So like say we want a green breathe in and out. That's kind of cool. So now it's purple, Now it's pink, now it's orange, green, blue. You get the gist. Anyway, let's get back and actually play some games. First up is Overwatch at 1440p ultra settings with an unlimited frame rate. We're gonna hop in and have a game. Oh no, this team has had it. Come on people, what are you doing? What are you playing at? I mean, graphically, it looks insane, but my team is nowhere to be seen. Vantage points, there we go. Yes, go on, beautiful. There's a double. What a comeback. That was amazing. Okay then, next game on the list is Call of Duty's Warzone, one of my favorites at the minute. Warzone has kind of auto-selected the best settings. We're running at 1440p, pretty much high settings right across the board. So the game should look great. Okay, we're starting off at airport and oh, beautiful, because I really needed some armor plates there. See what goodies are over here. Oh, look at this. It's going perfectly. Big man Paul, I'm coming. Oh my god, so many people down here. It's not even funny. Holy moly. I mean, on the plus side, the Gulag looks pretty sick at 1440p high settings. Next up is Valorant, which you guys always ask me for. We're running at 1440p, pretty much high settings across the board. And we're going to jump straight in to my first ever Valorant match. Oh my god. I mean, it looks amazing. It's running at like 1440p high settings, 230 frames per second apparently. I mean, it looks super duper smooth. Graphically, the graphics look incredible. Really, really good. It's like follow the leader. We go again. Here we go. Holy moly. I mean, either way, the game looks incredible, and at over 200 frames per second, there's no complaints from me. Next up today, we've got a bit of Forza Horizon 4. We're going to apply the suggested preset and jump straight into the game. Okay, so we're running at 2560 by 1440 on the Ultra preset, with, of course, an unlimited unlocked frame rate. First impressions straight off the bat, we're getting like 130, 140 frames per second. The game looks pretty insane, to be honest with you. And graphically, I mean, you couldn't ask for any more. Dodge the tree, beautiful. Oh, look at that. I mean, we've just shaved 20 minutes off today's video at least. Oh, bit of water? Bit of water. I think you kind of get the gist though. Forza Horizon 4 looks fantastic and performs really, really well. Next up, we're in GTA 5. And what we're going to do here is run it at 1440p. We're going to leave these render bars about halfway, high settings pretty much across the board, but not go too overboard with anti-aliasing or anything like that. I'm going to run the benchmarking test. Beautiful, look at that. I mean, the game looks visually amazing, and at like 100 frames per second at 1440p high settings, it really goes to show GTA 5, you got to fiddle with a couple of the settings sometimes and not go too overboard, and you actually get some great frame rates. You could probably run this at 4K 60 if you so wanted to as well. Okay, next up we have got a bit of Apex Legends Season 5. We're going to jump on into the settings menu. We're going to pop it at 1440p, put everything else pretty much on high to medium settings, and then jump straight into a game. I mean, already we're over 70, maybe even over 100 frames per second at some points, and graphically, we're looking good. Oh my god, my teammate's dead already. What is going on? Look, this is the way to travel, isn't it? Beautiful. Beautiful. Moving swiftly on to the last game today, we're going to play a little bit of Fortnite. Whenever I don't include it, people go mental. We're going to jump into the settings, run the game at 1440p, unlimited frame rate of course, and then pretty much epic and high settings for the rest of it across the board. I mean, straight off the bat, we're already looking like 130 FPS. Let's see if that changes when we jump out the good old battle bus and head towards the ground. Even now, we're still above, like, basically 100 frames per second. Most of the time, spotted our first victim. There he is. Bit of shotgun action. Beautiful. Come and get me, boy. Come and get me. Come on, fall into the trap. Boom. Number 2. Look at that. Shotgun at short range. You literally cannot beat it. Fortnite all finished up. I think that pretty much wraps it up for today's video. If you did enjoy it, make sure to give it a big old like rating, and do get subscribed if you want to see more videos from me. Talk to me in the comment section below. Let me know what you thought of today's video. Thank you very much for watching though, and as always, we'll see you in the next one.